Welcome back to DMC Sports. Today, we're going to talk about football. I'm going to show off some football cards that I have picked up. My goal is to pick up stars and rookie cards of really good players, or maybe my home team special team heroes and defensive studs, Stephon Page, Drew, Steve DeBerg, and he once played a whole half a season with every time the ball was hiked to him, Payne would shoot all the way up his arm, and he had this big giant broken finger thing. He was a fill-in for us. He was a stud and a Kansas City favorite, people. He was in Tampa Bay before. And he came here, and we were mostly a running team, so we didn't ask a lot of his arm, but he was a good clipboard holder for a while, and then he ended up being a good football player for the Chiefs. Thurman Thomas, he has his helmet here. Good for him. Way to go, buddy. Shuffle. I had to hit that card. Willie Galt, he fast. Tim Brown, he fast and one of the best side receivers ever. Too bad he played for the Raiders. Barry Word, rumbling and stumbling when Christian Okoye wasn't rumbling and stumbling down the field. So, Steve Smith, I thought this was somebody else, maybe. Whatever. Atwater, super big stud. He once stood up Okoye. I paid for that with a bunch of brain lesions. Super sad. Great guy from what I know, and an extremely good football player. So Albert Lewis, another defensive stud for the Chiefs, and liked to block punts just like Stephon Page did, and so he's one of Royals legends. Oh, speaking of the big man, rumbling and stumbling Christian Okoye. That's right, he was from Africa, and he was a scary individual. Very, very powerful big man. Look at him. He just looks powerful. He's smiling there going, yeah, I'm all right. I'm cool. Yeah, and then he'll run your ass over. Howie Long, Hall of Famer, super stud. Norwood, just to the right. I was in my car listening to the Super Bowl when that happened. I feel bad for him. He probably went and sold shoes or something. Singletary, can't really see him, but those are some scary eyes. He is an intimidating stud. Really big. The field was different when old Junior Seau was on it. Different. It was better. I was so happy when he wasn't in the game, but then he'd come back and make that. I don't know. It was just so terrible to play against. Barry Sanders. Can't believe they can actually get a picture of him without motion blur. What a stud. Michael Irvin, no scissors in his hands here, and he didn't stab anybody, probably because he's not on cocaine in this picture. Good for him. The Refrigerator Berries, famous for 1 year, made some money. Good for him. Big guys, rumbling and stumbling. Emmitt Smith, the best of all time in running backs in a lot of categories. Respect, people. Oh, look at that. A little Lawrence Taylor action. Changed the position forever. Him and Derek Thomas. Reggie White, the Minister of Defense. I had him in my fantasy football league when we had defense. Cunningham, my favorite story with him is not the fact that he was laying tile and then came back, is because he could really only throw to half the field. So they just said, well, throw to the middle or to the right half, or the middle and the left half. And he became a much better passer and he didn't have to survey the whole field. Passing is hard, people. Keith Jackson, great tight end. I had him in my fantasy leagues back in the day, and he really, really did well for me. So I'll always be a big fan of Keith Jackson. Don't be mistaken with the announcer from Alabama. Anyway, Brent Jones, great tight end from those teams back in the 90s. Herman Moore, this is actually his rookie card. I had Herman Moore for 3 years on my fantasy football team through the early 90s, and he did well for me. I actually paired him with Jerry Rice, and I won a lot of games. Rathman, sweet. Art Monk held the record for the most receptions in 1 year for a while. He was extremely good. I don't think he made the Hall of Fame. He was a really good, productive. Oh, this guy, he was pretty good. Number 16 in your program, number 1 in your heart, Joe Montana. Right on. That's just part 1. I actually bought this whole set. Where's this? Is this the whole set? Where's that? Let me look, make sure I got the right one. Okay, I got the right one here. All right. No, that's not it. This is the whole set. It's the quarterback. They had this quarterback collection in 2012. Was it Gridiron Immortals? QB Immortals, right? So I saw a chance to get a bunch of really good quarterback cards. John Elway, Bill Sims. I don't even like his son. He's so annoying. Staubach, awesome. Kurt Warner. I got a ton of stories about Kurt Warner. You guys would like that. Maybe I'll get some more Kurt Warner cards, and I'll go off and talk about High V. Joe Namath. He was good. Marino, quick release. One of the best quarterbacks to ever live. Only made it to the Super Bowl his freshman year, never again. Sonny Jurgensen, what a stud. There's the Montana again, the Joe Montana. That's right. Jim Plunkett, he could really pluck it. I don't know. There's a joke somewhere there. Y.A. Tittle, back in the day, very studly quarterback, legend. Bart Starr, of course. Man, hey, look at the black and white background, and they colorized it and everything. They did a good job. They did a really good job there. Ooh, Jim Kelly, one of the toughest human beings I've ever seen play quarterback. Tough. Barb's tough too. He was tough. Bouts. Boy, I'll skip that. He was good though. He was good. Eric Coryell. Aikman. Good teams. Good coaching. Great player. Hall of Famer. Warren Moon threw for more yards than just about everybody on this list if you count the other leagues he played in. But he was awesome. Len Dawson, Kansas City legend. That guy, that's right. In the Super Bowl, he smokes and drinks at halftime. Actually, it was after the game, but after the game. Terry Bradshaw, love Terry Bradshaw. What a great quarterback. What a big old bucket head, but he is hilarious in real life. What a great dude. Steve Young, finally out of the shadow of Montana. Wow. And Bob Garisi. I like him so much. I liked his son when he played. Complete opposite of Sims. Super annoying guy. All right, and then I got a bunch of these other Topps Legends. These cards are sweet. They're thick. They're just the player with the back. They're very similar. See, they look very similar with the background faded out and stuff. Freeney, great D end. Yeah, I picked up a bunch of these. There's another Manning. These cards weren't very expensive, but I had to pick them up because there's some super big good stars in here. Franco Harris, Ronnie Lott, what a stud. I think that finger is still broken. Ed Reed, Tebow. My story for Tebow is I actually enjoyed watching him when I'd wake up. I was working third shift, so I had to wake up and see what happened on Sunday. I couldn't watch the games. Just see what happened with him because he was a really electrifying guy to watch play with the Broncos that 1 year. So I really miss him in football. Just too bad he couldn't have more of a chance. Hines Ward, super stud. There's Emmett again. Aikman again. Marshawn Lynch, the beast. That's right. Roethlisberger, Big Ben. Jamal Charles, he holds a record for the most average run per attempt in the history of the league. He was a star. He couldn't catch. And in one offseason, turned himself into a good pass receiver for this team. Very impressive young man. He just retired. Tom Brady, I heard of him. Tim Brown, probably the best running back and maybe athlete in the history of the sport. I mean, Tim Brown was special. And I did pick up a Champ Bailey. Not a huge fan of Champ Bailey, but he was extremely good too. So, guys, I thank you for sticking around and watching some of my football stuff. Like, comment, subscribe. Who's your favorite football player? You know, give me your favorite. I mean, I've been talking a lot of good stuff about Jim Brown. Yeah, Jim Brown and all these other players, and they're not on my favorite team. Who's your favorite player that's not on your favorite team? All right, thanks for watching, y'all.